Caution: this game contains scenes of violence and gore, as well as depictions of criminal acts. These acts are strictly punished by law. Please do not attempt to imitate them. This game also contains themes of sexual violence and self harm. This game is a work of fiction. Any relationship to real persons, groups, places, or crimes is coincidental. In fact, it felt like a long time since I'd been back to the base. In fact, though, I'd only been gone about 12 hours. The PC was still on and my Sedaton screensaver was smiling into the dark room. I made sure to carefully lock the door from the inside and threw myself on the sofa. When I closed my eyes, all the things that happened to me today came flooding back. I couldn't believe the cops thought I was the killer. They were totally wrong. There was no way I could kill anybody, right? Do your jobs, damn it. This isn't a game. But they were just coming after me because I was a creepy otaku. Otaku had low social status. Nobody would complain if one was made to be out to be the killer. They weren't making any progress finding the real killer, so they wanted to make me out to be a scapegoat. Damn it. How was I supposed to clear my name? Events at Ad Cafe came back to me, and I shivered. There was someone even scarier than the police out there. Yua was my enemy. I'd let my guard down because I hadn't seen her for a while. I thought she was just going to leave me alone. But today I realized my mistake. I needed the D-sword to fight these people. I looked over at the cheap sword next to my computer. It was a fake. According to ISA, only those with the power could see a real one. But Nanami had been able to see mine on the day I bought it. And unlike ISA's incentives, my sword didn't glow. It was a real sword. I needed it as soon as I could get it. Otherwise, I was doomed. I was so sick of this awful stuff that kept happening to me. You have DID, dissociative identity disorder, multiple personalities. No, that's not true. That's impossible. They say multiple personality disorder is really rare in Japan, don't they? You had just saw too many movies and read too many novels. I didn't have multiple personalities. There was no evidence anywhere. No, that doesn't count. But it would explain that chat log. She made it up. It's not evidence of anything. It wouldn't explain that chat log. That chat log was something, even though you sent it as Shogun, it was still supernatural because it was being sent to you from the future, but also you were having the conversation with yourself in real time. There's no evidence that I don't have multiple personalities either. The doctor didn't diagnose me with having the doctor didn't have enough evidence. But then Dr. Takashina vanished right after that. For no good reason. I'm me, I'm not someone else. I know that better than anyone else. But I wasn't sure who I was. Suddenly I felt a prickling on the back of my neck. The same as always, someone's gaze watching me. Whose eyes are those? That's right, Shogun. He did it. Basically came out and admitted it right in the chat log. He was working with him. Shogun's behind all of the new gen. But did Shogun really exist? How did I know that he wasn't just a delusion? I'm sane. I'm totally sane, right? I held my head in my hands and screamed out to an empty room. The answer came from, "You've got mail, Dort." Seta. I slowly walked over to my PC and opened the email. It was from Grim. The subject was "Found something cool." It was probably some more Guro or mental browser cat crash image. I didn't have time to deal with his trolling, but I decided I'd at least read it. Nightheart, how come you're not in chat? You're not playing ESO either. I couldn't find you, so I had to send you an email. This video is nuts. I think I'm trolling you, but it's got the new Jin Killer in it. Everyone's talking about it online. Watch it or you'll be left out, lol. A video of a new Jin murdered, taken by the killer. My fingers were shaking on top of the mouse. I couldn't take my eyes off the text. Did it show who the killer was? Who was it? Was it me? Part of me wanted to see it, and part of me firmly resisted. This would be proof. Proof I wasn't the killer, or maybe proof that I was. I didn't know which it would be. It was like gambling in a way. My heart's racing as I moved my mouse cursor over the link, but I couldn't work up the courage to click it. I want to save you. Shut up! Don't treat me like I'm the killer. Don't try to have sympathy for me. I didn't do it. You're the one who's working for that killer. Anger boiling within me, I clicked on the link. It opened a YouTube page. The video's window read loading. It's not me, 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 it's not me. It was showing someplace very dark. The background was totally black. Was it indoors somewhere, maybe? I brought my face up close to the monitor to see if I could make out any details. It was dark and hard to tell, but there seemed to be several boys and girls. They were all talking really loudly. Maybe it was the low bit rate of the video, or maybe it was that they were all excited. I couldn't make out what they were saying at all. Sometimes they would scream violently and the static from the low-quality mic would be awful. After watching for a while, I could tell there were 5 people, 6 if you included the cameraman. The cameraman was carefully staying out of frame. It was hard to make out the faces of others in darkness, too. They seemed to be cheering each other, rubbing each other's foreheads, and giving out friendly pats on the backs and hugs. The girls seemed to be crying with joy in loud voices, too. It was a strange scene, sure, but what did it have to do with Nugent? Was it really the Nugent killer who was filming this? If nothing else, I don't remember doing it. After a short while, the person holding the camera slowly began to move forward. The 5 people in the shot, originally about 5 meters away, began to loom larger in the frame. The video's resolution was very low. Maybe they dropped the bitrate as low as they could go during encoding to keep the file size as low as possible. Cameras these days all had a night mode on them. Why wasn't the cameraman using it? Maybe it was an old camera? Suddenly the camera panned from left to right, showing the surrounding area. What I thought was a black background was actually the night sky. This video was being filmed outside. The reason I hadn't seen any buildings was because they were on top of a skyscraper. The 5 boys and girls were standing right on the edge of a tall skyscraper. Behind them was a sheer drop. You could see the lights of Shibuya spreading out from below. Finally, I understood. I know what this footage meant. I knew what the fucking title of the video meant. The group dive. The case where 5 boys and girls had jumped off the locked roof of the Cornelius Tower. The one Nugent case where they weren't sure if it was a suicide or murder. This video showed the 5 who died in the jump, and it would mean the 6th person was there when it happened. I'd been wrong about what they were doing. They were all crouching on the ground, clinging together and crying. They all seemed to know they were about to die, and they couldn't accept it. One was shaking their head no over and over. One was on their knees sobbing and ripping at their hair. One was screaming at the cameraman, demanding to know why they were doing this. One had already gone crazy and was crying while they laughed. What I saw was a violent desire for life, and a powerful wish to not die, and a helpless fury at the unfair situation they were in. But what was strange was, the cameraman's voice wasn't in the video at all. The person recording the video was almost fairly calm. Stop it! Stop! The video was close to a month old. Nothing I said now could change it. I knew it was meaningless, but I still couldn't help but scream at the monitor. None of them want to die! But of course, my words went unheard. The person holding the camera kept walking toward the 5 of them. They began to crawl away from the camera in fear. But it didn't matter, the edge of the heliport was right behind them. There wasn't any kind of safety fence. There was nowhere to run for the 5 of them. Another step back and they'd fall. The camera slept going forward as if it was taunting them, oblivious to their cries. But even as they got close, whoever was holding it did nothing but move forward. Then suddenly all 5 fell silent. They didn't make any motion toward each other, and nothing happened to cause it. But they all fell silent at the exact same moment. They stood up. The wind on top of the Cornelius Tower was strong. It threatened to knock them over. They slip, they fall. But then they all took each other's hands in resignation. Their hands clasped tightly with one another's. Stop! No! Don't do it! Silence. Even the sound of the wind blowing felt like it had happened. The only thing I could hear was the sound of cars traveling on the highway below the skyscraper. The cameraman still didn't do a thing, and then one of the 5 ever so softly whispered. I froze in front of the monitor, as if a cold hand had reached into my chest and grabbed my heart. Why? Why are you using those words again? This was the first Nugent case, right? Why has this voice suddenly said whose eyes are those? That was the dying message in the 4th case, the vampire incident. This made no sense. Video continued, oblivious to my screams. The 5 slowly stepped off the edge, as if there was a path waiting for them there. Then they fell off into the darkness of the city sky. I bit my lip and covered my eyes. Group dive wasn't a suicide. This was a murder. The killer was right there when it happened. And who was the cameraman? I knew the answer. Muffled by the strong wind on the roof, hidden by the sounds and screaming and crying. Between the burst of car horns from the highway below, there was another sound I could just barely hear. It was the sound of creaking metal. The sound I only heard when the cameraman moved forward. The sound of a wheelchair.
あの時、
What I
僕の前
saw
に
then
現れたのは
was real.
現実だったんだね。カメラの目線が
That
低す
camera's
ぎだ
too low
よ。
to the ground for someone who's standing up.
将軍。
The news about the leaked video, the group dive, quickly became a huge deal. Of course. The net was, like Grimm said, in an uproar. A lot of people on 8chan were saying that this proved all 4 Nugent murders were committed by the same person. The killer has got to be. Whose eyes are those? The guy who upped the video to Mewtwo has to be the killer, right? Totally. Whose eyes are... I don't know what that means. Okay, I'll call the... Okay, I'll call the cops on whose eyes are those. Whose eyes message showed up at the vampire crime scene too. There's a connection between the first. Now there's a connection between the first and last Nugent murders. People have been saying there was no connection at all, but I guess they were wrong. So the pregnant man and crucified are also. Oh shit! This is exciting. Whose eyes are those? And since the vampire case was the first case we saw, whose eyes are those? That means the killer can't be somebody who saw the group dive and tried to copy it. It had to be the same guy. Don't look at me, lol. Whose eyes are those? Excuse me. I saw the video and it looks like fake bullshit to me. I bet one Perica is just some theater group trying to make a name for themselves. Don't say whose eyes are guys. You're just egging the killer on. So that means all the Nugent murders were the same guy, right? Whose? Eyes. Mine are those. Mine. Maybe the other side of that ledge only drops down 2 meters and there's like a mat or something. Well, agreed. As long as that phrase is popular, we're going to keep seeing more murders. Cut it the hell out. It's not funny anymore. Who's eyes? I live in Shibuya. Don't look at me. It's the most viewed YouTube video. 17-year-old office lady. It's the top article on MHK News. KTR. Whose eyes claimed responsibility yet? The TV news was just as excited. 140 was right. All the non-government run TV stations, except for TVTK, had done specials on it, and they've been showing the video non-stop. None of the specials were longer than an hour, but the fact that the video was broadcast all over the country was shocking. Of course, all of the stations cut the last part where they actually jumped, but the effect they had was incredible. The TV commentators were more or less saying the same thing as the internet, that all 4 of the Nugent cases were the work of the same killer. It was inevitable that they'd say that. At last, the Nugent cases had something in common. Whose eyes are those? The phrase was so popular in Shibuya right now. It had originally been thought that these words only appeared during the 4th incident, the vampire case. But one of the victims of the group dive had said the phrase as well, despite it taking place over a month before Vampire. Now, out of the 4 murders, it had happened in 2, the first and the most recent one, which meant it was probably the same person responsible for all 4. Police held an emergency press conference to announce that they were doing everything they could to find the uploader of the video. A few politicians issued statements expressing their anger and sorrow and demanding that the killer be caught immediately. The video was deleted by YouTube's administrators less than 3 hours after the upload, but it was too late. @channers everywhere had downloaded it already, and nobody could stop it from being spread now. And then Late that night, the police made their next announcement. The video of the group dive was uploaded from a manga cafe named At Cafe, specifically the PC in room 37. But he was playing ESO as Lisa Lotte. Why would you go to school, nigga? You know the police are looking for you. Why? I sat in my seat and leaned forward, my head pressed against my arms. I had been listening in on the conversations around me without even realizing I was doing so. Today I was feeling really sensitive towards other people's voices. After listening to a few conversations, I realized that everybody was talking about the group dive, just like I thought they would be. Some of the girls were even saying, "Whose eyes are those?" as a joke. I bit my lip and stared down at my desk. That video was proof. Proof that Shogun was real. Proof that I wasn't the killer. So I didn't have multiple personalities. The old man in the wheelchair was the new Gen killer. But why had Shogun uploaded the video? Nobody had any... Okay, no, hold on, man. While the police can tie the first and fourth crime to each other, they cannot tie the third crime to the first two. So while it would be a reasonable leap in logic, a reasonable step to say that all four crimes were committed by the same person, due to the fact that the third crime has no connection, you're still fucked. I mean, the police probably won't get your ass for a while since you're important to the plot, but I mean, still. Especially the whole Room 37 thing. 3 hours? I mean, in 3 hours. It was uploaded from the PC in Room 37. The one you used when you sent shit at Shogun from the future. You're fucked. Okay, you're fucked, dude. You did that shit. Nobody had any clues. Why would he reveal? I thought about it and come to two possible conclusions. The first was that Shogun may have wanted attention and recognition for his crimes. Given how he'd shown himself to me, that seemed likely. The other was, as a challenge to me. For some reason, Shogun and his servant Yua were after me. I didn't know why, but they almost succeeded in making me out to be the Nugent killer. The police might still suspect me. Shogun was trying to trap me even now.
僕のメッセージは
Did you
受
get
け
my
取ってくれた
message?
目覚めるんだ
Wake up
早く出
soon.
ないと
Otherwise,
もっとたくさんの人が
even more people
死んじゃうことに
will
なる
die.
忘れないで
Don't forget,
君は
you
逃げちゃいけ
mustn't
ない
run. That's what Shogun, that's what the Shogun I'd seen had said. As near as I could tell, what he meant to say was, "I'm going to kill you, so don't run away." It was a threat. And now he'd uploaded a video for all of Japan to see. He was escalating things. He must have moved to the next stage of his plan. Also, the person who's in the video is never shown, so even though they are in a wheelchair, it could just be you in a wheelchair. The police still have you as a person of interest, the same way they still have ISA as a person of interest. Speaking of ISA and Seno, do we just not see them at school for? I mean, we don't see them at school for a reason, but like, we get to see Remy at school, and we don't get to see Ayase or Sena at school. We see Orihara at school. What the fuck has she done? But it would be naive to think this meant he'd given up on me. I should assume that his attacks and plots were only going to get worse. I was scared. That video was terrifying. Shogun was weaker and frailer than I was, but he killed 5 teenagers without laying a finger on them. If he was behind all the Nugent killings, that would mean even the pregnant man, crucified, and vampire were all done by his hand, despite his tiny, frail body. Or maybe you had helped. Maybe you had helped? Either way, I didn't have any hope of protecting myself from someone who could do something like that. Felt anger at being chosen as their target so arbitrarily. But I also felt afraid of them. And then, whose eyes are those? There was that message too. Whenever I let my guard down for a moment, my body started to shiver. I had to stay tense at all times. if I was going to keep myself from losing control. I kept a close eye on my surroundings and made sure I was ready to run if somebody approached. Shogun, or maybe Yua, could appear at any moment. It was entirely possible that Shogun had more servants than just Yua. After all, maybe some of my classmates, the kids who were laughing and chatting around me right now, were under his influence too. I had to avoid being caught off guard, like I was at Cafe yesterday. Otherwise, this time, I'd be killed. I needed to find that D sword. If I wanted to get out of this alive, I needed that D sword. After talking to Ayase and Senna and looking on the internet, I was getting more and more sure of it. If I could get the D sword, I'd be saved. While I was watching things unfold on the internet last night, I've been doing everything I could to find information on the D sword. I'd gotten nowhere. I moved my hands up to my head and tore at my greasy hair. How the hell was I supposed to get a D sword?
見つけなくちゃいけない。
You have to find it by yourself.
方法なんて
I
誰
don't
ですぐわ
know
からないの。
how. That's what Ayase had said, but I didn't even have a hint as to where to start. It wasn't fair. I was getting more and more scared, and I wasn't making any progress. The fear was crushing me. I had to find it. I had to find the D sword fast. I needed the D sword no matter what. I gotta find it. I gotta find it. Or it's over. I have to find it before I become the victim in the next Nugent case. But find it how? I don't even know where to start. There has to be a hint, some kind of hint. If I don't hurry, I'll lose my chance. Can I find it? I didn't have time to be here at school. My life, graduating school. There was no question which one was more important. So why was I? Then I heard somebody getting close to my seat. I tensed up, jerked my head upwards.
びっくりした。
Wow, you scared me. It was Remy. She was standing there blinking in surprise at my sudden movement. You're the one that surprised me. Don't scare me like that. I relaxed, sighed, and dropped my head back on the
タ
desk.
ク、大丈
Taku,
夫？
you okay? She peered over. She peered over me like she always did. I quickly looked
顔、
away.
真っ
Your
青だよ。
face is dead pale,
汗もすごいし、
and you're all sweaty too.
目も血走っちゃって
Your
る。
eyes are all red. Was Remy on my side, or was she my enemy? After she'd saved me once, I was a lot less cautious around her. But that meant I was also just ignoring all the things that made me suspect her in the first place. Why did I see her covered in blood during the crucified murder? And if she and I were friends since my first year of school, why didn't I
タ
remember it?
ク、体調
Taku,
悪いの？
are you not feeling well? Remy looked a little concerned.
なんでもない。
It's nothing. I turned my head away from her. There was no way I could ask her any of these questions to her face. When the day's classes finally ended, I was mentally exhausted. Even during class, I'd been ignoring the lecture and constantly keeping an eye on my surroundings. I hadn't slept since yesterday, but I felt so tense that I was actually more alert than usual. The school day seemed to drag on for an eternity, and the longer it went, the more miserable I felt. Why did time seem to pass so much slower or faster depending on your mental state? They say time flows at the same rate for everybody, but there's no way that's true. Time is subjective. It's both. If you ask me, things like hours and minutes were just somebody's secret conspiracy to hide that subjectivity, to make everyone think it was the same. If time flow was subjective, didn't that imply you could control it too? I only thought of that because of what Senna said about controlling other people's will. Didn't that imply
生まれながらに目が不自由
take someone who's been blind from birth and make it so they can see what's in front of them? It uses a tool similar to a video camera, you
映
see.
像機器を介してね。
If you could take the image recorded by a video camera, turn it into electrical pulses, and send it to the brain in a way that could be understood, didn't that imply that you could take images in the mind and turn them into electrical signals too, then send them to some kind of device to be turned into video? There was no need for the signals to be coming from a video camera anyway. For example, what if you hooked up a hard drive with a recording of a travel program? What if it wasn't a travel program but an anime? An anime is just an illusion. It's 2D. But somebody born blind would never have seen 3D images. If you told them this is what the world looked like, would they believe the 2D world was real? Wouldn't that mean, from their perspective, that a delusion was real? For example, no, hold on. Let's say somebody we'll call A has an image in their brain. You could send it to a hard drive and then turn into a video, and then a broadcast, and then broadcast into B's brain. Then A's delusion would become B's reality. Their delusions would become real. It would be theoretically possible, right? Wow, I'm a genius. I became incredibly excited about my own idea. Maybe this was the key to getting a D-sword. ISA said a D-sword was a delusion after all. Okay, time to head home and look it up online. I left the classroom and headed to the front entrance of the school. But on the way there, I changed my mind and headed back to the building where first used. It felt like I'd do better to avoid the main gate. There was a chance Shogun or Yua might be waiting for me there. I decided to leave by another route. I used the connecting corridor that led to the first year students building. The bell had rung a little while ago, so only the kids left around were the ones on cleaning duty or in clubs and on sports teams. There was something slightly lonely and nostalgic about the school after the last bell rang. It didn't matter if it was an old wooden school or a newer one like Suime Academy. Not that I'd ever been to an old wooden school outside of an H. Either way, the school was quiet. I walked as quickly and quietly as I could through the silence. The setting sun fell warm through the windows. Normally, I walked with my head down, but there were no other students around me. So I walked with my head held up, alert, watching for anyone suspicious. Sound. I could hear a sound. What was it? It felt like I'd heard it somewhere before. Then I saw something pass across my vision and down the corridor at the end of the hallway. It was an empty wheelchair. Images of the group dive I'd seen yesterday came into my mind, and I felt a chill run down my spine and froze. The wheelchair vanished from my vision. And then I heard an incredibly loud noise. The silence returned. I held my breath and stared in the direction the sound seemed to have come from. What did I just see? Why was there a wheelchair at school, and why wasn't anybody sitting in it? The last noise was probably the sound of the wheelchair falling down the stairs. If it was that loud, the wheelchair would have broken to pieces by now. I looked around. The quiet suddenly seemed eerie. From where I was standing, at least, I couldn't see anything moving. But I could feel a gaze. Don't look at me. Was Shogun here? Was he at the school? Why? To meet with you? To find me? I took a step back. When I did, I almost fell backward. I somehow managed to retain my balance. I felt cold and clammy. Was this some kind of prank? Why wouldn't they show themselves? I'd feel better if they actually just showed up. I suddenly felt like throwing up. I wanted to get out of here as soon as I could. I ran back the way I'd come, holding my hands over my mouth. By the time I made it down the stairs and into the courtyard, I couldn't hold it in anymore. The second I dropped to my knees, the contents of my stomach came floating up from my throat. Stomach acid stung my throat. My eyes were blurry. It hurt to breathe. There was a disgusting taste left in my mouth from the vomit. I guess I was under a lot more stress than I thought I was. Maybe it was because I'd been up all night. I wiped the ed. Oh. But the blind spots and the shadows I'd normally ignored now seemed terrifying to me. I started to think that Yua and Shogun could be lurking anywhere. Once the idea was in my head, I couldn't take another step. Somebody help me. I wanted to cry, and the urge to vomit came back too. This time I didn't throw up, but I coughed and gasped for air. It hurt so much that even tears came, and I felt a soft hand rubbing my back. I turned around afraid.
大丈夫
It's okay. Remy was
大丈
there.
夫だよ
Everything's okay. She wasn't asking me. She was gently
私
telling me.
は
I'm on your side.
タクの味方だから。
She showed no sign of disgust at the smell of my vomit, or the way my face was covered in snot and tears, with dried remains of my stomach's contents crusting the corners of my mouth. She had a gentle smile on her face, as if she was trying to make me feel better. She came up to me and rubbed my back gently. Why? When I'd wanted somebody to save me before, she'd appeared then too, like a superhero coming to save the day. Why was it that having her around made me feel so much safer? Why did I feel so much better? The next thing I knew, I was spilling my guts out to her, even though I hated talking about myself. Help me.
一人は怖いんだ。
I'm afraid of being alone. Maybe that's why I'd come to school today. Until now, I thought I was better off alone. Of course, I still was afraid of talking to anybody. I didn't think I've had any hopes of being friends with them. But after everything I was going through with Yua and Shogun, I felt so scared and lonely. I wanted somebody to be by my side. I didn't even need them to be nice to me, I just needed them to be there.
一人は怖い。
I'm afraid of being alone.
だったら
Then
私が
I'll be there for you. In her words, there was no malice, no hesitation. Of course, I can't be there for you 24 hours a day. She smiled and suddenly looked up at the sky. What was she looking at? It felt like she was staring at something far off in the distance.
一緒に
I'll go to school with you.
学校では
On break, we can talk about whatever.
昼休みは
At lunch, we can eat together.
夕方
And then, in the evening, we can go home
帰
together.
るついでに
Sometimes we might stop somewhere on the way.
タクの部屋で
Or maybe have a little chat in your room.
それで
And then I'll wave goodbye and I'll see you tomorrow.
そんなのでいいなら
If that's all you need, I can give it to
そ
you.
ういうの
I always wanted to do something like that. But that almost sounds like you'd be my girlfriend. I was in shock. She was serious, at least as near as I could tell from looking at her.
どうして
Why? Hmm?
どうして
Why are you willing to do all this?
それは
Because this is leading where I thought it was, right? The next word might be because I like you, right? I couldn't understand what about me she could possibly like, though. No, wait, this was a cold maze trap, a clever trick to get me to let my guard down. It happened before, right? Yua had deceived me, and then betrayed me. I couldn't get my hopes up. I needed to imagine the worst case scenario. Rimi might be my enemy, too.
牛
Snap! She suddenly saluted me. I was caught off guard by her sudden action and worried that she might suddenly be about to reveal her horrible true nature. But I could still see the gentle smile on her
そ
face.
んなの
Because we're friends,
わか
right?
るでしょ私にしてみれば
Of course I'm going to want to help you.
どうしてとか
Don't ask why, it makes me
わ
sad.
かった
Got it?
うん
Yeah. Friends, huh? If she said because you're my boyfriend, I might have felt like a whole... But even if it was as friends, it made me so incredibly happy. Having someone else be nice to me. Having someone do something for me without expecting a reward. I didn't realize how happy that would make me. Maybe it was something I'd never... But more than that, it made me feel like I wasn't alone. Rimi was my salvation. The urge to throw up finally subsided and I felt a lot better.
使う
Here, want this? She offered me a red handkerchief that smelled like flowers. I took it, but I was hesitant to
汚しちゃっ
use
て
it.
いいよ
You can get it dirty if you want. It's yours
あ
now.
りがとう。
Thank you. I felt guilty, but at this point I decided to just take advantage of anything she'd offer me. I wiped away the barf on the edges of my mouth. This was the first time a girl who wasn't in my family had given me a present. I wasn't sure if you could call it a present though. But for somebody who was totally alone like me, even something small like this was an incredible treasure. The joy and sense of relief that made me feel like I was going to cry again.
それじゃ
Now let's go home. She smiled innocently. Together. What she just said about staying with me seemed, in her mind, to be a settled matter. I hadn't given an answer, but she didn't care. But of course, I didn't plan on saying no. I was afraid of being alone. I didn't want to be alone. Right now, Rimi was all I could rely on. But that didn't mean everything would be fine from now on. I still chose a different route home than usual, and I kept looking over my shoulder the whole way. Danger seemed to lurk in every shadow. Each time I came to an intersection, I had delusions of Yua and Shogun lurking around the corner, and froze up, unable to go forward. Then Rimi would go ahead of me, looking down the street and turning back to give me a
大丈
nod.
夫。
Don't
誰もい
worry,
ないよ。
nobody's there. I gave a sigh of relief and followed her. Rimi stayed with me, not seeming annoyed at all.
ね
Hey, can
え、
I
聞いて
ask
い
you
いかな。
something?
一体
What
何
happened?
があったの？
I wasn't sure whether I could tell Rimi. If I told her and Shogun came after her too, that would be my fault.
話
Oh,
したくない
if
な
you
ら
don't want to tell
無理
me,
に
you
話
don't
さなく
have to.
いや
No,
話すよ
I'll tell you. I started to speak. I was reluctant to get her involved, sure, but if I didn't explain what was going on, she wouldn't understand how desperate my situation was. I decided to ignore the risk to her for the sake of helping myself. She was the one who told me she'd stay by my side, so it was okay, right? I told her about Shogun, the one behind the Nugent murders, about his servant Yua, that the two of them were after me, but it had happened in front of the 107. I kept tripping over my tongue, but I managed to get it all out.
うーん
Hmm. When I told her about Shogun, the man in the wheelchair, she frowned a little. That was the thing I wanted to ask her about most. Now was the perfect chance
い
to do
た
it too.
かな。
Hmm. I don't know if I
車
remember
椅子
any
の
old
お
men
じい
in
さんなんて
wheelchairs. Shouldn't sound very confident.
思い出して
Remember?
大切なことだ
It's really
で
important.
も
But she pauses. She's about to, what does she mean, remember?
そもそも
The square in front of
渋
Shibuya
谷の駅
Station
前
wasn't
が
empty
道
at
だ
all,
った
you know?
いつ
Oh,
も
that's
と
what she
同じ
meant.
だった
It was the same as ever. So she hadn't seen anything strange at all that night. I'd hoped she'd tell me she'd seen the things I had. Rimi and I had seen different things. Which of us had seen what really happened? Was I just wrong? Was that empty Shibuya just a delusion of mine? Also, it's painted as if they were out doing something together when then he snapped back to reality. As if the other Nishijo was with Rimi out and about, while inside of his head he was back at home playing ESO, and then got up and went to the convenience store, had a delusion, went to Shibuya Crossing, saw Shogun, and then blinked back to reality. Or at least that's how I've been interpreting it. Because there's no reason for Rimi to just kind of show up, right? Other than the idea that the two of them were together at the time. Previously, especially with our with his history of not remembering that she's his friend. But there was a problem then. That old man in the wheelchair and empty Shibuya Shogun. How could you explain him? If the empty Shibuya was just a delusion, then Shogun might be a delusion too.
駅前って人が
There's
多い
always
で
a
し
lot
ょ
of people in front of the
だから
station.
車椅子
So
の
even
人
if
がい
there
ても
was somebody
な
in
か
a
なか気
wheelchair,
がつ
I
かな
don't
いだ
think I
ろう
would
し
have noticed.
要するに見てないって
So
こと
yeah, I didn't see anybody.
ごめんね
Sorry, I couldn't help you. Shogun wasn't a delusion of mine, I was sure of that. I thought he might be at first, but my opinion had changed totally after I'd seen the video of the group dive. The Shogun who'd taken the video was real, that was proof he existed. But the empty Shibuya could have been a delusion, maybe. Shibuya had been filled with people then. It had just looked empty to me, that was all. Shibuya has only ever been fully empty once, and that was Halloween 26 or 2018. But what did that mean?
ね
Hey,
え
hey,
それより
there's something I'd
お
like
願
you
い
to
が
do
あ
with
るん
me.
だ
Is
け
that
ど
okay? Huh? She put her hands together as if pleading with me.
CD を買いに行きた
I
いんだ
want to go buy a
せっ
CD.
か
We're
く
really
ここまで
close
来
to the
たから
shop, and I
ちょっと
want
言
to
っていき
stop
たい
and
んだ
buy
け
it.
どいいかな
Is that okay? To be honest, I wanted to get back to the base as soon as possible. I'd only taken this longer route home because I thought Shogun and Yua might be trying to set an ambush for me. I didn't want to go shopping. But if I refused here, I might upset Rimi. She might even get mad and leave me here. That would be bad. I needed her to stay with me. I didn't even think I could get back to the base on my own. In the end, I wasn't able to refuse. I followed behind her, fear increasing with each step I took. Hopefully, even Yua would be reluctant to attack me with this many people around. But I was more scared of the idea that Shogun and Yua could be lurking in the crowds than relieved by the thought of getting lost in them. Each time somebody came close to me, I felt myself screaming
パ
internally.
トカーだ。
Police cars! My body froze, and I quickly hid behind Rimi. She was right. There were 2 police cars stopped in the street. 3 uniformed officers were standing next to them. The police were after me, too. I hadn't actually done anything, but they were too stupid to understand that. Were they looking for me, I wondered? But after a moment, I realized they weren't. They were staring at a crowd that was marching down the street. A protest, maybe? They were all carrying signs and waving flags, and they even had sashes and headbands. There was a little girl in the rows of the protesters, looking confused as she was pulled along by her parents. On her shirt, the words, "Whose eyes are those?" were written with a black magic marker. I bit my lip when I saw it.
何のデモだろうね。
What are they protesting? The crowd was full of men and women, and the people of all ages. As they marched, they'd sometimes yell out slogans. Drive the demons out of Shibuya.
悪魔
Demons? Some of the signs said, like, drive the demons out of Shibuya or protect Shibuya from terrorists. It was probably a protest over the Nugent murders. Protesting wasn't going to accomplish anything. If they had time to protest, they should just find and kill Shogun instead. Then I wouldn't have to feel so scared all the
タク
time.
行こう。
Taku, let's go. Rimi looked away from the protesters, seemingly disinterested, and began to walk toward the CD shop. Once inside, she headed straight for the indie CD corner. Unlike the J-pop section, there weren't many people there. She stopped in front of the P shelf, Phantom Parade, and began to look for a CD. Or Phantasm, I'm dumbass. Phantom Parade is the fucking JJK game.
うーん。
It's not here. An indie band who started with P. Could it
タ
be...
クはファンタズム
Taku,
って
have you heard of
バンドを知ってる？
Phantasm? They're really
今話
big
題
right
にな
now.
ってるけど。
I should have guessed that's what she was after. Of course, I knew about them. I'd gone to a concert and even owned a CD. I nodded and she
私
chuckled.
そういう
I don't really know a
曲
lot
が
about that
結構疎く
stuff.
て
I only found out
それ
about
気
them
になって知っ
recently.
たんだ。それで
I
友達
thought
とか
about
言おうかと
borrowing
思
their
ったんだ
CD
け
from
ど
a friend,
な
but
か
it's
なか
hard
手
to
に入
get.
らないらしい
Nobody
ね。
has it.
誰もだから CD
So
買
I
うしかない
thought
かな
maybe
って
a CD
思
shop
っ
would
て
have it.
ここ1
I've
週
been
間
looking
ぐ
for
らい
about a
あちこち
week, but
探
it's
して
out
み
of
たんだ
stock
けど
everywhere.
と次はいつ入るんだ
When
ろ
do you
う。
think they'll get more in?
僕
I...
持ってる。
I've got one.
持ってるって。
You have the
CD?
CD? I nodded, and then Rimi put her hands on my shoulders. Her face was so close I almost flinched. The smell of her shampoo tickled my nostrils, and I could feel my face
ねえ
turning
タ
red.
ク
Hey, Taku, let's make a trade. Trade?
その CD 貸してく
If
れ
you
た
give me
ら
that CD, in
2回
exchange
目私
Her face was dead fucking serious. I gulped. Oh, what? I'm running on like my reserves, nigga. Her cheeks turned a little red from embarrassment, and then she spoke as if she revolved herself to some big
私
decision.
のこと
I'll let you do whatever you want to me. Okay. What's she doing?
しゃがんで
Crouch down. Confused, I did what she said. I crouched down, leaning back up against the CD rack. So when she crouched in front,
伸ばして
stretch out your knees. Did she mean for me to sit right on the floor? There was something DQNs did. I didn't want to do it myself, but she grabbed my calf and forced it outward. I obeyed and splayed my legs out on the floor. I'm going to bed, nigga. I just downed a whole monster, and the fucking caffeine has an adverse effect. Fuck this fucking game.